Hello and welcome to the USTA Association's 2021 Beginner Tournament. We've got a group match here today between LucidTak and Ziji. I'm Sam, otherwise known as Caecilius in the Discord server, and I'm joined today by Nitzel.
Hiya.
So, just started here, going for pretty standard opening, adjacent corners, and it looks like they're going to go for a mirror pattern. Yeah, at least that's what it seems like is going on. It's quite popular.
So that's the first diversion and still mirroring. I would have expected a capstone somewhere in there to be able to cut off those threats early, but not yet.
And now White looks to be developing vertical threat. He's still got no capstone from Black. Maybe a bit odd. I think I quite like the capstone, maybe D4, but no such move. Looking for a white move now. They probably just want to keep on developing their threats.
And like we've seen in one of the recent Chandrian games, it is possible to keep going for a long time with no captures, which is always nice because then you get a full board and loads of action going. So that looks like it's having going for the vertical threat there. White and black maybe as well.
Yeah, interesting. Black's just keeping along.
Yeah, probably just staying defensive as long as it can.
Trying to get as many pieces near White's pieces, so if need be, it can capture, say, a cross from maybe A5, just to temporarily defend. White here, and I think connecting with B6.
But white is still 3 moves away from a road, so nothing too urgent at the moment for black.
No, they probably want to go on maybe developing some momentum somewhere, starting to build a road, starting to threaten just so they can maybe gain a bit of advantage against White.
Phenomenon muted.
Black's just thinking here. I think it's probably better to put a capstone down sooner rather than later. I'm just not sure where right now. Maybe E3 capstone, moving across, and that's cutting off White's threat. Oh,
Yeah, that's what I would have suggested,
C5.
because now it got the ability to capture 2 stones, b5 and c4, which is always good. It's hard to get the capstone out of the game.
That's good. And it can also capture downwards, and that's a solid building of a horizontal threat.
Yeah, correct. It helps its own road if he is forced to capture in that direction.
Yeah. Now White needs to respond to this quite strongly, I think.
I mean, for white, it would be interesting to maybe develop a threat on the D file, um, because if black then captures onto C4, um, it wouldn't go in. Oh, there's the second capstone.
Yep. And now I think Flux Capstone maybe wants to move down because before White's flat hit C4 captures a cross, because that's isolating Flux Capstone from the action there. So think that might be necessary.
Yeah, true. And if he doesn't, well, if he does go down, then white will probably just mirror that move. Interesting.
Interesting. Okay. So for white here, I can see a few possible options. I think C3 is a standard one because that's fragmenting black's flats. Yep, we see, and that's building the vertical threat as well. I'm just thinking for black here, what's the best option? Black plays C2. I think is a decent move. That is like a temporary blockade, and needs B um, could be potentially the start of a horizontal threat.
Yeah, and it's also exerting a lot of influence on C3, so if it wants to go there, it can quite effectively cut any vertical threats, I think.
That's the first attack threat of the game if D2's flat moves across to there, and there we see the black capstone responding to that, moving down, cutting off the vertical threat. And now I can potentially see a white flat on B2, or alternatively, you've got a white flat on C5, and so that's building a horizontal threat across as opposed to vertical, where black has much more influence. We do see.
Okay, B2 as you said. So if he places B1, then that's another tuck threat, and he forces another capture.
But black could capture upwards with C2 on C3, as you've previously mentioned, and that cuts off that threat.
And now would be especially strong because it's right next to his capstone.
Yep.
So he can just take it back whenever he wants to. Also, I feel like white's capstone is getting a little bit isolated at the moment.
Definitely. I think it may be priority to get back in with that, maybe playing C5. Maybe. It is. That is a problem for white at the moment. Seeing black play B1. Interesting.
I think that's a good move because it avoids having to capture in the next one.
Yep. D2 captures across, that's attack threat for white. Variety of responses here. We could see maybe a B3 upwards to B4, or B1 to B2. Then maybe white plays A3, keeps that momentum going with another attack threat. I could see that happening.
Was that Fib or No-Head who recently said whenever someone's capturing one of his pieces, he is considering putting a wall right next to it?
Yeah, to skim off the top.
No.
Oh, and
Uh-huh.
now we see white developing that horizontal threat, getting the capstone back more in the game, getting it more involved, connecting it with more pieces. Interesting to see how black responds. I could see just building across maybe E4, E3, because they've got a good start of a horizontal threat here.
Yeah, though white still got the tempo, so but yeah, you're right. Black has to defend that somehow. Ooh, keeping away from white. Interesting.
Now white can just play E5, and that is another attack threat. So white's definitely on the front foot here. Potential responses. See, yeah, I don't. E5 for white is not puts black in a pretty bad position because they can't move the capstone upwards and cut off the threat because that just leaves another road empty.
Yep. So aside
F5
from
maybe.
blocking, aside from that, also the capture with A5 would have been possible. But yeah, a wall is always a strong move.
Yep. And that's a strong defense of that. And now we could see another place on the E file and just keep that threat going, keep black responding rather than making their own threats. I suspect that's what will happen.
I
Obviously, the
reckon.
wall can come
Would you?
over and cut off any of that though.
But if white does it towards the 6 file, then of course it can keep repeating the thread with a couple of moves. So black is probably ultimately forced to place another wall there.
We could also see an A3 as that's another attack threat he may be considering.
True, and just distracting black from the other attack threat might help him to sneak it in.
Yep, that is what we see in A3. Responses for black here, I could see maybe an A4 downwards. I don't particularly want to move that capstone, is the thing. Because if you move that
I was
capstone downwards, it's too far away
I was thinking
from
about
white's
B3 up. That would be a
B3.
tech threat
Oh
on
yeah,
his own,
B3 upwards is a
and
nice one.
white would be forced to capture somewhere. Possibly getting his capstone into the game, but that's not what he did.
I think B. I do agree. I do like B3 there. Goes with the A3, um, developing that horizontal threat. But and now it's up for white to respond. The vertical threat is somewhat dead now. They can capture it maybe across C3 to try and keep that going, but I don't see that happening. I think that that's a very easily stopped move.
I also think it gives power into black's hand if there's any capture going to happen in the B3's area.
Yeah. Okay, and we do see the horizontal threat continued with E4. Um, now black's interesting. D4 comes across to counter that.
I mean, white can just easily repeat the same thing with E6 now, but now black's got one more piece in the area, so he can move that over. On the other hand, doing that would give white another flat to capture with a capstone, so he's probably not going to do that. The E4 up.
Yeah. I mean, what other threats can white start to just set the wheels in motion of? Places F4. I guess then that does give white the advantage in, say, a potential capture wall, but yeah, because black's capstone can't move across to go get it.
It's also defensive against black's horizontal threat that he may develop by place. Oh, or this way. Well, it's still 2 placings to go, so
Yeah.
that's an interesting move.
Yep. But if white isn't careful, I think we could be on the road to Tinue. It's not Tinue yet, but if white doesn't place near black's horizontal road, black moves their capstone down to
Yep,
c3, and that is Tinue. So
because
white,
if white...
okay, white does see that. They place the wall down there. They can skim off that flat on d3 as well, which I think is a good move.
Yeah, if he captures down and then maybe up again with a wall and leaves the flat behind, he could also crush it, potentially, with the capstone.
Mm-hmm.
And get it out of the way by also gaining another flat.
Okay, and now we're seeing what will black's response to this be?
I could imagine it will just develop further towards the f1 corner to keep the horizontal threat there going, but out of the reach of white.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can later throw down his capstone to c2 maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at there. Maybe playing an e2. So plays e4. So that is an immediate attack threat. I think LucidTak will see. Potentially move the wall down, and that gives them another flat to work with.
Quite interestingly, also LucidTak plays on his extra time, so he's already down to the half of the starting 15 minutes.
Oh,
While
yeah.
CG is still at 11 minutes, so he's managing his time a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Though, as we know from the more expert games, that doesn't mean much.
Mm-hmm. I think
Some
7 minutes is still quite a lot of time in TAC. He's got, especially as white. Oh, I like that move actually. That's a stuck wall which he easily controls because he's got the wall down there at d4.
Yeah, that's right. If black goes up, he uses his wall.
Alternatively, though, just see here, and that's attack threat. You've got d3
Sneaky.
that cascading around there, which may be quite sneaky. I'm not sure. Black could move his capstone downwards to c3 from c4. Oh, and he
Oh, he
doesn't
didn't
see
see
it.
it. So that's
And
probably the game.
yeah, LucidTak realizes he does, and that is
That's the
game
game.
one. Good game.
Really good. 20 moves. Quite a bit of threats going both ways. I like that.
Yeah.
And then, as it often happens, a sneaky one takes the win away.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well,
I could
see you back
I could
in
imagine someone being a little bit annoyed now. Yeah, see you back for the next game.
in a few minutes. Okay, we're here for game two. Ziji is now playing white. LucidTak is playing black, and so should be starting any minute. Oh,
There we go.
and we've started the first move of the game. Ziji places A1 corner. Ooh, spicing it up for LucidTak, placing E1, not a corner. And so Ziji goes for D3. LucidTak responds with C3, and we're deviating already. This is interesting. Okay. So,
They're playing quite a bit quicker than last time, don't they?
response, and now you've got LucidTak building that horizontal threat. Ziji's trying to get a vertical threat, squeeze around Black's horizontal line. I could definitely see a flat place at f3, which we do see, and a capstone at d5, which I assume is going to be moved down when when he needs to. LucidTak's still building the horizontal. Ziji's one move away from attack threat. If he places
Well,
it
so
e6.
is LucidTak.
So is LucidTak, but there's a very easy response for Ziji to the c4 or the f3 upwards, I think.
Absolutely. What do you think? How will LucidTak respond to that upcoming threat from White? Oh, he does his own.
Ooh. And so I
I,
assume the capstone's coming downwards or the flat's coming across from f4. Yep, see that happening. And that is attack threat for Ziji.
yeah, White's in a very good position at the moment. Luckily, Black's got enough influence on d3 to take the road apart at least a little bit.
Yep.
And then probably will be able to drop a wall or his capstone somewhere.
The capstone. Ziji's capstone comes down. LucidTak, I think, is looking now. He needs to get his capstone out soon, I think. Just to try and get back into the game.
Absolutely. It's a bit hard to think about the right position for it, though. I think e2 could be a good place to do that. Because moving it up to e3 would put it more into the game.
Yep, but if you place
and also
e2,
create a threat.
I think placing e2 maybe risks, because now White can move e3 down to d3.
Once again, White can move e.
That is attack threat. And I can see Black's capstone maybe coming over to e3 now, blocking that, giving the attack threat of
No,
his
e3 wouldn't be good, would it? Because White would probably come down to d3, and then it has a captive and can move up again. So that wouldn't delay much.
But it does get the capstone in the game.
Yeah, and he's now got the option of capturing e4 and freeing one of his captives in there.
So Ziji has to respond to this threat. Black's got a nice little tuck there.
Yeah, I mean, he could actually just place at c3 and wait. Ah, that's what he does. Interesting.
And that is a tuck threat again for White. Interesting to see how Black responds to this, actually.
Yeah. I could imagine that Black was actually hoping that White was capturing down to d3 so that it could then free his captive upwards.
Yep. So just looking at Black's opportunities to respond here, I think you've got potential c4 downwards, e3 upwards, or a d3 downwards, but I'm not sure that. I think that's easy fodder.
Yeah, I think you c4 downwards is a good idea. Okay, so he moves over.
Capstone coming
That
across.
just the issue I have with that is that it just allows white to renew the threat. Though he's got the one flat capturing over, and then he can utilize his capstone to. Oh, white's had enough of it.
Interesting. Probably sees another way. It's looking white's potential. It's black's turn now. Black could just start building a vertical threat here where there's no white influence here. I think it's good just to start maybe building the foundations of a threat there.
Absolutely. Also, like the two capstones and that wall, they both block off the existing threats very much. So it looks like a good idea to do that. Though white does have the possibility of moving his capstone up and making it a hard cap onto e4.
Yep. And
would
placing
gain a little bit
e2.
of momentum. Yeah. I could imagine Ziji is thinking about what is black's plan and how quickly can I get to a road and force him to capture some more to get an advantage later.
The thing is, if he wants to start to break down that wall, making a hard cap, he needs to place at e2 as well, which isn't a very constructive move in terms of broadening his threats. It's more consolidating his base, which I don't think is normally a particularly good tactic. You want to keep on branching out, making sure you've got influence everywhere instead of like a particularly one particular place.
On the other hand, forming a citadel there makes it very sure that black's not able to do any horizontal threats through that bit over there. So it would assert a lot of dominance over that area. But then you're of course right that you got the issue with losing influence on other areas of the board.
Yeah. So white's taking quite a bit of time to think about this, which I think is a good play here. I think this is one of the turns where you do just want to calculate, go through your options, make sure you've covered most possibilities.
That's what I thought as well. It might be quite a decisive move now.
I could also see from white though a b2. Oh, we see the wall moving across.
So now everything opens up again. That's interesting.
So both the white's vertical threat and black's horizontal are back on the menu. I could see black maybe placing e2, getting the horizontal threat back to full strength.
Yeah, and it also would give him the option to unpin his capstone, because at the moment he can't move it. Unless maybe to the left towards the A file.
See,
okay,
E3.
that's...
And so that is attack threat.
Is it?
Sorry, no, I'm
Isn't it
blind. It's not attack.
by the
It's
wall?
not attack threat at all. I'm thinking about F3 for some reason being black. It's not.
No, I was looking at that as well.
Let's see, what are the options here for white? We see that e2, and so
Yeah, he seems to definitely cling to it.
so now we could see white's capstone coming across. Problem with that though is that that's very easily blocked because black's capstone then just has to come back and mirror it.
And creating a tag threat while doing that. Oh no, the wall's still out.
I can definitely see maybe a b2 now from black though. Just solidifying a good vertical threat here because I don't think he's going to have much trouble defending the white's vertical because he's got a capstone in exactly the right place. Ooh, that's interesting.
I mean, it helps him develop the vertical threat while also keeping tabs on white's movement and white's road to be able to capture over. It's probably not a particularly strong place to capture over, but I mean, it would interrupt the road.
Yeah. Okay, and now we see that it is attack threat from white.
Oh,
The
and
thing
he
is,
might be tempting black to capture over.
Black's
He can't.
capstone can't capture over because that's attack threat. And
Ah, and he's
we
seen
see
it.
the wall. He's seen it.
Good. That was tempting, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would have been tempted to do that one. I think, yeah, and I think in hindsight, actually, D5 is quite a nice move. It's covering your bases because the capstone can't actually do that. Okay, C5. This
Yeah. White might just be trying to either get something horizontal going or to work around the capstone and get some forcing combination going there.
Yeah. I think it depends on what Ziji's next moves are and how LucidTak responds.
What do you think about moving the wall up? Okay, so he's going for that as well now.
Why?
Yeah, that's another tag threat. Just as I said, he's working around the capstone.
It is. It's very roundabout It's a very roundabout threat here, which LucidTak may.
They are difficult to see sometimes,
They are.
especially with all the capstones around.
Mm-hmm. And especially when you're under a time pressure. It's like he does see it, but that gives white's capstone or the C4 flat very nice stack to work with. And so now black is completely fragmented. I
Well, that
can't.
looks quite bad for black. It's not quite a threat yet.
No. I can now see that E2 wall may be coming up in preparation to cascade across.
Yep, just dropping another flat on E4 and then
Yeah.
moving up further.
Or white could also try and throw in another attack threat here by placing on C3. I'm not sure how strong that would be, but
Yeah,
it's.
C3 or C2.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's time for black to get that wall into action to be able to unpin his capstone. That would be very helpful, I reckon.
Yeah. All depends on what white does. White has all the control here. There's an immediate threat. Black's mostly countered the horizontal threats. It's quite hard to get past that B4 A4 string there.
He could make it his last move and throw it over, but So is white just trying to get another capture onto c4? So if black captures c4, white captures onto that, then black has to either capture with a wall onto d2 or put a wall on c2 or c3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be quite the threat. And it would also allow white to go horizontal and create a attack threat that way. Okay, so black didn't fall for it.
Black going for the vertical.
So while they're fairly even on tempo, white still had
an area, white could win now. I'm not sure I see. Trying to find it. Because the cascading that stuck downwards doesn't. Okay. It will...
Okay.
Not a.
Not quite. I could imagine she miscounted the stack falling down toward the c4 stack falling down.
Okay. What does white want to do here? White places f4.
So if it throws that c4 stack to the left, that's attack threat, but it's easily countered from black, so it probably wants to do that as the last thing it does.
Now, black, just looking at its position here. Black has an opportunity now to move the e2 wall up, or follow through with the vertical threat, meaning white can't just place a flat here. White has to capture. Albeit either a c5 across or the c4 across.
And if he does c4 across, then yeah, he has to do it the right way, just as he did it. If he had moved the entire stack onto b4, that would have been Teneri for black.
Or here.
Except for the capstone, but yeah, close to it. So what does that mean for white's position now? I mean, black will win that capture war if he wants all those stones. And he's going for it.
The capstone can come across, though.
Yeah, true. White might have that in mind.
I'm not sure how desirable that would be of a move, though. I guess it has to respond. So they have to go.
Yeah, so something has to go, and now c5 can't move over anymore.
Or at least it would only be a delaying move.
Yeah. Well, no, it doesn't delay anything. It just moves over the b4 stack and splits it.
Well,
and
what that does mean is you've got less prisoners under the capstone. It might be a bit more mobile.
True, but you also remove the white prisoners captive, so you wouldn't have anything to free when going on there.
Yeah, so
I think instead of before moving the c4 pile over to capture b4, what white did, I think it actually should have captured over with c5 to b5.
Oh,
Attack threat,
doesn't see
but
it.
he didn't see it. Or he thought about it, forgot about it, and then placed. Oh dear, that's it. That's the game.
Yeah. Right. LucidTak wins, and that is wins both games here.
Interesting comeback, wasn't it? I mean, I thought black was in a fairly bad position after white had his capstone pinned, but
I felt throughout the whole game, white was in a stronger position. Then, guess sometimes you just forget. Happens to the best of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. The worst is when you see the tuck threat and you think about it, how you counter it, then you see your own opportunities, and you go for your own opportunities and just, out of sight, out of mind.
It's the way of Tak.
Cool. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed that game as well. And looking forward to seeing you in another game.